Believe it or not, this is the new and improved 8th generation iPad. I know, it may not look like much of an upgrade at all, but what if I told you all of this year's changes are found under the hood? On the outside, the new iPad is almost identical to its predecessor, and not just physically. We have the same 8 megapixel rear camera, 3 gigabytes of RAM, and the same 32 gigabyte and 128 gigabyte storage options, with of course 10 hours of battery life. We even have the same silver, gold, and space gray finishes as previous generations. The only difference this year is that this iPad has a more powerful processor. The 8th generation iPad is powered by the A12 Bionic chipset, which is the same processor found on the iPhone XS. So it is about 40% faster this year than last year's 7th generation iPad, give or take, with about twice the graphics performance. Even though the update sounds incremental, the performance of this iPad has definitely improved when compared to last year's. And the cherry on top is that this year, we do get all of this performance without any major price increase. Quickly, before we do continue, if you want to see more iPad related content, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like on this video, because I do have the iPad Air 4 coming in soon, as well as more iPad based productivity content. So if you guys are into that kind of stuff, click on the red button down below. Taking a look at the iPad itself, this tablet feels and looks very familiar. We still have the prominent bezels, a very familiar home button, with the ever reliable Apple Touch ID. This screen is 10.2 inches, and I believe this is the perfect size for an iPad. Hear me out. I made the critical mistake of going for a bigger 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and I've been living with regret ever since. At the time of purchase, I thought the iPad Pro was going to completely replace my laptop as my main go-to computer, but that hasn't been quite the case. If I had the chance to buy an iPad Pro all over again, I would most definitely go for the 11-inch variant, just because I personally find it to be more portable and it is much easier to use as a standalone tablet. So this 10.2-inch panel is just perfect in my opinion. It's the perfect hybrid between a tablet that is meant for media consumption and a tablet that can be used as a productivity tool. Surprisingly, we still have a headphone jack, and that is something that I do find missing on the iPad Pro. Sometimes I do forget to pack my dongle, and I find myself in situations where I just can't listen to my audio just because the iPad Pro is missing the all-critical headphone jack. We also do have two bottom-firing speakers, and they're alright. They are one-sided speakers, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and they're not as great and loud as the quad stereo speaker setup found on the iPad Pro. But these speakers do get the job done, and here's a quick comparison for you guys alongside the iPad Pro. The screen has a native resolution of 2160 by 1620, and it's the solid Apple LCD display that we have all come to love and expect. Color reproduction on this display is punchy, with good balance of natural colors and defined details. If you ever want to relax and just kick it after a hard days of work, you'll have no problems holding this iPad in your hands for long periods of time watching Netflix and YouTube. My only complaint about this display is that it is a non-laminated display, which I found to be disappointing on the 7th generation iPad, and that disappointment just carried over with the 8th gen. Laminated displays perform better in brighter conditions, and they also feel better to write on when you are using an Apple Pencil. So it was definitely a miss on Apple's part. What I really don't understand is why Apple still offers this in a 32GB storage option. Unless you are absolutely sure that 32GB is enough for you, you most likely should opt for the 128GB variant, especially if you are planning on using this iPad for work or school related purposes. The 128GB model will run you $429, which is a pretty good deal considering all of this performance you are getting. If you are a student, make sure you take advantage of Apple's student discount, which will save you a decent amount of money. This iPad is loaded with two cameras, an 8 megapixel rear shooter and a 1.2 megapixel selfie camera. The rear camera is fine if you are planning on taking pictures of notes and important documents, but if you are planning on using this as your everyday go-to camera, this is not going to cut it. The front-facing camera is only capable of 720p footage, and I do feel like it's an inadequate camera for our current zoom-based world. Let's just say it's not great for video calls. I do understand a lot of people will be buying this iPad for their Zoom or Skype calls, and I would say it's decent enough to get by with good lighting conditions around you, but in a room that's not well lit, you will encounter a lot of grain in your video. So about 6 months ago, I made a review on my 5th generation iPad, and it got a lot of traction for such a small YouTube channel. And the one question that I always kept getting in the comments is this iPad compatible with the Apple Pencil? Of course, it was the 5th generation iPad, and it wasn't compatible with the Apple Pencil. But this iPad right here is compatible with the Apple Pencil, and it also does come with a smart connector for the Apple keyboard. So you can use an Apple keyboard or any compatible third-party keyboard. Of course, this is going to cost you extra, but if you are planning on taking advantage of all of this processing power, I feel like an Apple Pencil and the Apple keyboard are crucial accessories to have. Performance on this iPad is absolutely insane. It's crazy to think that Apple is giving us all of this power at this price point. The upgraded processor is not only super fast, but it also feels future-proof enough to handle more demanding apps. Sure, you can make the argument that it's not the A14 processor found on the latest iPad Air, but it's still good enough for most people to get the job done. I've tried a lot of graphic-intense games on this, and not only did this iPad perform well, but also the battery life held up pretty well even after a couple of hours of non-stop gaming. I even edited some 4K footage over on iMovie, and this iPad did a fantastic job of handling the edits on a 4K timeline. Not only was I able to edit seamlessly on a 4K timeline, I was also able to export the footage in about under 5 minutes, which is almost as fast as my fully spec'd out MacBook Pro, so I am really impressed. Apple, for some reason, is still resistant on switching over to USB-C across all of their products, and this iPad Pro does come with a Lightning port. But I do believe USB-C iPads will be coming sometime in the near future, but I just don't know when. There is also no fast charging on this, so to fully charge this device is going to take you around 3 hours. So clearly there is a market for the basic iPad, hence why Apple keeps making one year after year. It's a tablet meant for users who want a surprisingly powerful device, be it for school or work, and everyday tasks such as notes, emails, or just browsing the web is an absolute breeze. If you don't mind the lack of Face ID, an extra set of speakers, and also thinner bezels, then this iPad is for you. I think if we got 2nd generation Apple Pencil support along with a laminated display, that would have made this iPad a worthwhile upgrade if you did have the 7th generation. But in the meantime, I would keep the current tablet that you do own if you aren't in need of a significant power upgrade, which I figure most people wouldn't need. If you made it this far into the review and you think this iPad isn't for you, then do consider checking out my iPad Pro review. I promise it is a worthwhile watch that covers a lot of questions that you may have. But if you guys do want to pick up the 8th generation iPad, links are in the description below. They are affiliate links and they do help out the channel. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to flex with your ridiculously overpowered tablet.